Hi all, good morning. Today we are going to discuss about the Weblogic Administration. So the course contains the below topics like what is the Oracle Fusion middleware platform and how to install Oracle Weblogic server, how to set up a domain, and how we are going to set the domain using templates as well as other administration by using console and the scripting technology WLST, how to configure this manage servers and cluster as well as node managers, and how we are going to deploy the applications in WebLogic application server, and some services like JDBC, data sources, JMS, and how to configure users and groups in WebLogic server, how to configure SSL technology for the applications, and performance tuning for the server, and the last disaster recovery, how we are going to fail over time. So before going to Weblogic administration concepts, we are going to the software development lifecycle architecture, how we are going to develop particular application or a project. As we already know about this SDLC phases like planning, analysis, design, coding, testing, and the maintenance phase. So I'm going to give you the brief view in the phases what we are going to do. The planning for a project, we will be taking the required assumptions or the required things to build a project. For that particular things, we should do analysis. After analyzing a particular planned things for the project, we are going to make a design by using some diagrams, some PPT guide. After that, with a detailed design, we are moving to coding. In coding, we all know we can use the technologies like the Java, .NET, any other stuff we can use to build applications. After build the code, we are moving to the testing phase. Once project or the application tested successfully, we are moving to the final stage, maintenance. Here maintenance means the application or the project is going to the real world environment where the people are going to access or use the application whatever you built. So why we are in this SDLC phase before coming to WebLogic application server administration? If you can see, except maintenance phase, all remaining phases will be a time base. That means they will be having a short time for 2 to 3 months. Like if you can see for planning, analysis, design, if you consider for a project, they will be for 2 to 3 months. By going to or visiting the client persons, our clients will coming to our offices and giving their requirements and analysis things. After that, we will design based on their requirements. So these 3 phases will take 2 to 3 months for a simple project. After that, coding will take somewhat more time, like you can say 1 year to 2 years, based on the requirements and based on the application complexity. After the testing, it will be also in months. Once all these 5 pages completed, we are moving to maintenance. Maintenance means taking the application for real world usage. there is no time limit or there is no end time for this maintenance phase. What is called this maintenance phase? You can say where the application will be utilized or used by the users or people which is running in a server. So today we are going to discuss about the Weblogic Application Server Administration, how we are going to deploy or how the people are going to access the applications or the projects which are being deployed in a Weblogic server. Before going to that, we'll have a brief introduction of Fusion middleware architecture. What is this Fusion middleware? Basically, Fusion middleware is an RTL product. It's a family where we can build, where we can integrate these applications and we can deploy. So this is all the package, a family of package where we can build, where we can design integrations, where we can deploy, and where we can take the VA reports, everything the stuff. So Oracle is providing online technologies, like you can design or build the technology called Java or SOA for an applications. After building the applications, you can deploy them in a server, Weblogic application server. For storing them or to store any transactions or data, you can use the Oracle database. And after that, if you can take any reports, you can go for Oracle BI technologies. It's like one family kind where all the technologies are available under a tree. So if you can see the FNW architecture, it's a browser where end user will be sitting and he is going to access his applications or his data which is available in the net or where we placed. So this is the architecture, how it is going through load balancer. After that, Oracle Web Cache, from there HTTP server. Again, using some Java technologies, MBeans, it is going to the middle layer where the applications which were built are deployed in a server that is called our Oracle Weblogic server. After that, the backend will be the database. So this is a simple a two-tier architecture for any simple application. If you can see here, we have LDAP. LDAP is nothing but giving authentication for an user to access particular application, whatever he wants in the server. So this is a simple FNW architecture. Next, you can come to the Weblogic architecture. Basically, before the introduction of this FNW architecture, we will have a brief introduction about Weblogic. What is a Weblogic server? Basically, a server is nothing but a container which will be holding the data or the applications. So, Weblogic server is an application server which holds the J2EE applications which are developed in Java based technology, which is holding that kind of applications with a high availability and with a scalable performance to serve the requests which are coming from the users. So if you can see the architecture, the WebLogic domain is having one admin server and two managed servers. On the backend we will be having database and one LDAP partner will be there where the authentication will be happening. Before going to brief details about what is the administration server, what is node manager, or what is managed servers, what is LDAP, and what is load balancer, everything, I'll be giving you the simple definition for a WebLogic server domain. A domain is a collection of WebLogic server instances where one administration server will be there and all the remaining servers will be acting as a managed servers for holding the application to serve the request as many as they're coming from the end users. So simply the domain is the collection of WebLogic server instances where it is having only one administration server. If you see the picture, the administration server is machine A and remaining machine B, machine C are two managed servers. The admin server is act as a head for the domain where it is controlling all the remaining managed servers and the data and the configurations of the domain. Everything it is handling. That's the reason we are naming it as administration server. So each domain having one config.xml where the domain related information or the domain related configuration will be stored in the particular config.xml. All the servers, admin as well as no managed servers, are referring to the particular config.xml to serve the requests which are coming from the end user. If you can see here, we have a node manager in each machine B and C. So what is a node manager? It's an inbuilt technology in WebLogic server where user can remotely log into the system and he can do a start or stop of the servers. That means you no need to go back of the servers, like wherever the server is running in any server or Windows system, you don't need to go there. By using an administration console only, you can directly do a server start or stop operations. So that is the use of a node manager technology in WebLogic server. Apart from that, here we are having a load balancer and a database and a firewall and everything. So for a transaction related or data storage purpose, we are using the database service which is directly connecting to our application servers, and the load balancer. The load balancer name itself will route the load based on the request. Like whenever the request comes, the load balancer will route particular request to a machine or a server to serve particular request, whichever is based on algorithm kind round robin, random based on the algorithm, so that the request will be served as fast as. After that, the firewall. The firewall is a technology where it will provide a security to the application which is hosted on the servers. So that is also Weblogic having in SSL technology, where we are going to discuss about that. So before going to that, what is a Weblogic cluster? Weblogic cluster is nothing but a group of managed servers. As we discussed previously in Weblogic architecture, the domain will be having one administration server and remaining all servers are managed servers. If you can see this architecture, the cluster is having two managed servers and one application server. So the cluster is nothing but a collection of Weblogic server instances. An administration server is also a part of the cluster, but most of the projects or most of the cases we are not going to place admin server in cluster. Why we are using cluster? The cluster is used to perform high availability of the application, scalability of the application. High availability. What is a high availability situation? So as we are placing the applications in the servers, there may be chances of server crash. There may be chances of application going to be down. So if an application will be deploying in many of the servers, that will be giving us a high availability for that particular application. Whenever you place that particular server which is having an application in a cluster only, that high availability concept will utilize. And the scalability. As Weblogic will be having the load balancer proxy, as I told, the load will be sharing to all the servers in a domain whenever they are configured in the cluster. So each and every request will be served very effectively when the application is deployed in a cluster environment. So those are the two major advantages of the Weblogic cluster. So this is about the Weblogic architecture and the cluster architecture. So these are the Weblogic administration course topics, like installing Oracle Weblogic server software and how to configure a simple domain, using administration console and WLST, how to use it, configuring managed servers, configuring clusters, configuring node managers and deployment concepts. I told you we are using a database for storing the user data or the transactions based on the user request. Further, we are using data sources to connect to a particular database. Coming to Java messaging service, which will be used to communicate two different application servers, where an application needs, which is running in one server, wants to communicate with an application which is running in another server. JMS service will be used there. Users and groups to access the administration console, how a user can be allowed and how he will be having the privileges and what group he needs to assign, where we will be having the groups admin group and monitor group and operator, a deployer, where 4 groups we will be having. These are having different privileges, which among admin is the superior user who will be having the access for all the configuration items and data items in the domain. As I told you, a firewall concept, we can configure the security for our WebLogic server by using SSL certificates. Coming to performance tuning, there may be chances of application slowness and server high utilization based on the request. How to tune the particular situations when our application is not responding or server is not responding. That is coming under performance tuning. Means how to make an application to serve as many as whenever there is more load. So coming to the final one, the disaster recovery. The disaster recovery is nothing but a failover. Whenever the primary application is going to be down due to a natural calamities like earthquake or server crash, like hardware issues, then the secondary side application should be bringing up without noticing or without delaying, without notifying the end users. So in disaster recovery, each and every project will be having 2 sides. If you want to implement a disaster recovery plan for your project, you should be having the same architecture for your primary side and as well as the secondary side wherever the application is running. That means architecture means the WebLogic server architecture. If the primary side contains one admin server, 4 managed servers, the secondary side should also have one admin server, 4 managed servers. And it is recommended that 4 managers should be grouped in a cluster in both primary and secondary sites. What is the advantage of disaster recovery, or what is the uses of the disaster recovery plan? How we are going to bring or how you are going to available your application when the unfortunate situations like server crash or hardware issues come over in your primary site. Like I told you, the configurations of the primary site and secondary site should be the same. where we are making the primary site in active and the secondary site in passive. Here we are going to give the same application URLs or the same application DNS names for the primary site and the secondary site. Though the secondary site is in passive, the request will be routing to the active site, which is the primary one. Whenever the primary site is down, we are going to make the secondary site as active. That means all the services will be routing to the secondary site, which will be acting as the primary site in a disaster situation. So this concept will explain us how we are going to configure a disaster recovery plan for our application. This is about Weblogic Application Server Administration. Thank you.